Elon, he's at like half of his quota of like 5,000 a week. We're pretty much maxed out at capacity on our current assembly line. So now he finds out in California, it's like, oh, there's this law that like allows repair shops to like open up a temporary tent to like fix things. He's like, they didn't specify the size. Oh, specifies the size. My bad.
You want to try it again?
They didn't specify.
He's sitting in a meeting or something, and he's playing with this little toy car that's on his desk. He's like, they pressed this car in a factory. Why don't we stamp real cars?
Take Starship. You have a little payload at the top. So basically, he asked like, hey, how much is it to make this? And they're like, it's $3 million if you want to cool the air in the payload area. $3 million. You guys hear this? $3 million. Hey, Tracy, how much does AC in your house cost? Like, it's like $6,000 for the unit. Like, all right, let's get a handful of those. I really like how this is like a Peter Thiel metric that's all. Take Tesla and full self-driving miles per intervention. Go 10 miles without me having to.
My bad.
Because we're an hour in, I'm talking about miles per intervention.
Exactly.
Welcome to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we talk about smart. We make
smart nonsense, things. Pop. Right now?
Dude, I'm sorry, dude. I've been preparing my notes the whole time. I forgot what we did. But look at my notes, dude. Look at my notes.
No, Pop.
Dude,
no. Watch
this
on
book,
YouTube.
Dude.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Absolute picture book.
It'd be a shame if...
Unprepared.
It'd be a real shame if I just interrupted every single thread.
Dude, so then I had 4 notes.
My bad for taking this over.
A very small change turned into everything.
You know what I bet it was?
You sent me right before this. This
wasn't
even a thread.
Before.
Dude,
it was torture.
I want to say yes to everything, but there's nothing.
Say it again.
Tech just might like go down.
Oh, let me piggyback. Sorry to hijack your thread, dude. Just give me a second.
Well, here's the thing. Coming in this pod, you've been on a poop tour, but given that poop tour, you are now in the locked in, I'm going to prepare for this podcast sort of mood, which I haven't seen in eons, dude. All it took was Elon Musk. You preparing.
Hey, we're talking about Elon Musk today. The new Walter Isaacson book. It's out. It's finished. I figured we should probably tell the people what we're going to talk about at some point. Pop, it consumed my entire life the last 2 weeks. And I know we've talked about it every day on the podcast because we can't consume anything else while this book was being read. It's thick with 2 C's.
Wow.
That's it, huh? You got any threads before Elon? Just a quick one?
Well, dude, you sent me some flood thing. We could talk about that, but we don't really need to.
Well, I saw New York was under 6 feet of water this morning.
Yeah, well, right before I was leaving, it's rain time for the next couple days, and so that's not good when I bike into the studio to shoot. So I just fucking head down. We talked about my positioning so that I avoid most of the spray, but today, right before I'm leaving, I get like an emergency warning. It's like, hey, get the fuck off the road. There's flash flood. I'm like, that's not good because I just ordered a sweet grain and a Chipotle, and I got to make some pit stops before I come in the studio. Dude, so on the way, I just see like the worst traffic I've seen in New York since I've gotten here, just backed up everywhere. I think everyone's, one was taking Ubers anyway, and then 2, it's just like trying to flee the city or whatever. So I managed to like make it out, but then immediately after I get in, you send me Twitter, and actually grass-fed Hunter and Casey Neistat, they're out filming videos right now in the fucking galoshes. So,
I bet they are. Can we talk about your dinner from last night really quick before everybody clicks off of this video? Your dinner last night was carrot cake, 2 bowls of fruit, a frozen froyo, 2 sushis, and 2 salads. I guess those were probably your late lunch, but you got to get it together, Pop.
Well, dude, here's the tough thing, because I get home, right? So I stack. I'm like, I know my eating time is here because I get home and I have nothing. There's nothing in the fridge. The only thing I do have, though, is the leftover food from my $100 charcuterie board from this past weekend. So all I got is like this fig jam that's like this big, but there's only a little bit left. So I stick my slimy finger all the way to the bottom, and every like 30 minutes, I just go and scoop myself out a little bit of fig jam,
So
and then like cut off some cheese to eat with it.
So for the people who were listening, you were on your high horse about not having to do any chores, and like that is the reality you now have to live because you don't get any groceries. You're just fig
Right,
pudding.
right. And I also, dude, I don't know if I want to say this, but I always like wonder, like, what's the, dude, when it's really late at night, and I know this isn't a good roommate thing to do, but I don't have any food, dude. And sometimes I'm really hungry, and I'm like, how much can I take from Jack's leftovers before he realizes that I've gone into it? So I'll take like a little carrot here and there. But fuck,
We
I
gotta
felt
get in.
really guilty eating this carrot.
You should. Oh, it wasn't your carrot cake?
No, the carrot cake I ate here, that was mine.
Okay.
But back at home, I need a midnight snack, and he had like a bushel of carrots, and I'm like, is 1 out of 5 carrots enough to notice? So there are only 4 left. I'm like, does he keep track of that?
We got to talk
so that's
about
my
this
bad.
book pop, and you need to order some groceries. That's ridiculous. You need to grow up.
Do you want me to spoil the book, dude, in one line?
Spoil
2
it.
words?
2 words.
3 words. 3 words. It's 2 words on my sheet, but I got a symbol in the middle, and when I say it out loud, it's 3 words. Here it is. Whole book. 3 words. Humanity over humans. 3 words, dude. 3 words. Do we just Gartaloo right now, dude? Humanity over humans, dude. That's it. The whole book.
That's not really a great jumping off point.
No, it is, dude. It is, and I'll jump off myself, and then you can figure out what trajectory I'm going on. But here's my point, all right? The whole book is like, Elon, I don't know what you think of him, but he's kind of a fucking maniac in like the best way possible. So he's just like totally vicious, like ruthless with every human he encounters for the greater mission of keeping humanity alive, like keeping it progressing, going forward. Because he's basically like, I don't know the like meaning of life or any of that, but I do know if we just keep civilization alive and like people getting smarter and like consciousness globally just improving, maybe we'll figure it out someday. So he's like, let's just keep that spark alive. And that's his whole thing. And he's like, I don't care who I fire, like what kind of fucking ruckus should I blow up in the meantime, as long as we're going towards getting humanity going forward.
Yep. So,
oh, dude, come prepared.
So now that the entire book has been spoiled, let me try and think about.
Spoil a biography.
Here's what I'll say about this book, because you were asking me about Walter Isaacson's other books: Steve Jobs, biography of Einstein, of Leonardo da Vinci. That's a list of 3.
Nice.
And I was going for 4. You could probably hear in the tone of my voice, I thought there were 4 or 5, but I nailed 3.
Within you.
You were asking if those other Isaacsons were as good as this one. And my answer was, I don't think so, because this one focused heavily on Musk's decision-making. And I was thinking, and the others are like more, which you really like, which we really like, because it's more like a business book than a biography.
That's, by the way, just a teaser. That's all we're going to talk about in this podcast is like all his little or at least all I have is all his little micro decisions on how he thinks. Because I love that. I don't really care about him getting like tortured as a kid.
Right. So the other Isaacson books, I don't think were as good as this one for that reason. What was my point? My point was, though, I think we need to go back and read the other Isaacson books, because when I read them, I was too young. And so I might not have been interested in the business lessons like we were this go around. So I think that was my point. It's a good business book.
Jobs could be good.
Jobs is good.
So basically what I took from this is I'm like, okay, I think we both took this from it. It's like Musk, like the whole book, his whole life, but everything in general is just a consequence of his mission. He's like, the mission is just like keep humanity going. Okay. And there's a lot of stuff that's trying to stop humanity, like woke culture. That's not good for humanity. Like fossil fuels, like not going green. That's not good for humanity. Give me one more, dude. Give me one more. What could kill humanity?
Each other.
Just
Twitter.
like lack of progress, dude.
Free speech.
Sure. I think that was my first point.
Fuck.
2.5. Give me 2.5. So basically, just like a lot of shit. Well, it's like AI. Did I say AI? I wanted AI. That could kill people. That's 3. I got it in time. So everything's around that mission, and then that justifies all his actions because he has this like crazy urgency. He has a bunch of different like frameworks. I don't know. Maybe we just talk about it at the start. He has some frameworks where he just thinks about business and then applies it to everything over and over and over. He basically says, like, I watched an interview with him and he's like, yeah, dude, I'm just like a broken record. I just say the same thing over and over. It's like, use the algorithm. That's all we do. Everything is the algorithm. That's how you manufacture things. So it's like, okay, what's the algorithm?
Yes. Yes, Pop. Got us back on track.
Nice, dude.
Yes.
Pop quiz, dude. You know the algorithm off the top of your head? No cheat
Off
notes?
the top of my head. Okay, here we go. Question.
There are five things in order you go through.
Question all requirements. Because
Yes.
requirements are dumb. Requirements made by smart people can be even worse because you think they're smart.
Nice, dude. Oh, don't look down.
Oh no. Oh no, it's 1. Give me a
Number
hint. What's
2.
the next letter?
Well, don't memorize it, dude. Just think like what's important.
Delete.
Yeah, nice, dude.
Yes. Delete. Ruthlessly delete all. So after you've questioned requirements, then delete parts, delete requirement, delete everything. Because if you're not adding 10% back
At
to
least.
whatever, at least, then you haven't deleted enough.
And we'll give examples of each as we go through
Yes.
because he's just like fucking chock full of them.
Simplify.
Okay, so you oh, nice, dude. Question, delete, simplify. Love it.
Accelerate.
Oh, he's still going. Dude, I didn't know. Fuck, I thought you were gonna explain some of it, but no.
And then automate, baby. And there's a
Right.
good story around that. So let's talk about the algorithm.
Well, one thing I think is important is Elon says he often made the mistake of inverting this, where he came in and he's like, all right, hey, I'm building a factory, because he came from like the tech space. He was doing all Fugazi bit stuff. Now he comes in the world of bits and
Bits and bobs. Uh-oh.
What's the other thing, dude?
Don't get stuck on that.
Bits,
Bits
bytes,
and bobs. Bits and bobs.
No, that's finance, dude. What's
Oh. Bytes.
no? It isn't. Don't they say like bits versus something else that starts with a B? That's like the real world. That's my bad. But well, it's whatever the like real product stuff is. He never did that before. So he comes in and it's like, what does everyone in the coding world do? Well, you're like coding robots. So he's like, oh, let me just automate everything. And so he basically over automates his entire factories. And he realizes like often robots aren't better than humans. So he just made this mistake over and over until he like figured out, no, you got to go through the algorithm like step by step. You can't skip steps. And he says often this third step, the one where you simplify and optimize, that's what it technically is. That's what most engineers, smart engineers, default to. So they're like, hey, here's the requirements they gave us. Let's just go and figure out how to crush this thing. Like, let's just make it the best it is. It's like, no, those requirements, that was made by NASA like 60 years ago. It's irrelevant right now. Question who made that and like figure out who is the actual person responsible for it. Most engineers just go in and blindly accept whatever. And then you can often just eliminate whatever they're doing.
He's like, most people spend way too much time simplifying or automating processes that shouldn't exist in the first place.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Do we get into examples? Well, fuck, the whole book is examples, dude. That's why I don't know where to start, because he's got fucking 6 different companies.
So, okay, you gave a really good one about, this was early Tesla. He automated almost the entire production line in Fremont. And they were getting into serious trouble. They had to get, in order to stay alive, they had to get like 5,000 Model 3s out every single week. And this was when Elon started to realize that he had over automated, because Well, there are a couple things. Like he starts walking through the factory, and certain machines were set to like I don't know 20% speed or something, and
Oh, I like that one, dude.
he's like run the thing at 100%. Why is it at 20%? They're like, well, because that's what not the FDA, but like some governmental thing said we have to do. He's like, do it at 100%. So they do it at 100%. It like
Well,
that was too much. It starts breaking
so
it, and he finds out that 70% is
this specific one, I think this was about tightening bolts or something on the
mhm.
car.
Yeah.
And so just to like frame the problem, Tesla's always been going bankrupt. They've always been going bankrupt, and now he's like making this promise because I think they're a public company at this point. They must be. And he's basically saying 5,000 cars a week. That's what we're gonna hit. But behind the scenes, which everyone's starting to short Tesla in like 2018, it's because he's at like 2,000 a week, which is just like completely. He's never gonna hit his target. So he's just gonna get slaughtered, and then like bad things are gonna happen. But one of these things, so he's just going down. Like his whole job is pretty much 80% just like going down the assembly line, whether it's a Tesla or like
With
going
gracias.
out of way. Um, do I want to
Inside
explain that?
joke.
No.
No.
He's basically just like in the trenches. And so one of these things is it's like a bolt tightening robot. And what was cool was like, it's at 20%. So it's like, why not go at 100? And then when they actually like look at it, because the cool thing is like I never think to like reprogram a tool or whatever. Like it was just cool that like he goes in and like changes the source code to override the policy where it's like, oh, when we start turning the bolt, like don't go righty tighty first. Go left 2 turns before it starts going right. He's like, fuck that. Why are we going left? Like just go right. Go right from the start. And then he goes to 100% and he realizes he like strips the threads. So he's like, oh shit, okay, let me dial it back to like 70%. But it's just like go over the line to find where the line is. And so his whole job is just to do that repeatedly.
And then the other great story with that automation and de-automating was, again, they were not getting stuff out quick enough. So he just starts marching down the line, and he's like literally starting to do things on the line, like put the weather stripping in the doors of the Model 3. And he's like, why the fuck am I faster at putting in this weather stripping than a machine is? And when he started to realize that, they were just going down the line, finding all the machines that were unnecessary because they had automated too early, spray painting giant red X's on them, and just getting people to haul them out of the factory. So he's like, we need humans on the line, and everything with a red X on it, throw in the dump. Because these processes shouldn't have been automated in the first place.
Well, that's what I love too, was like people were at first like, you're scared to give something up, but he's like, no, we're eliminating like half of these. So just like tell me which one stays, which one goes. And he's just literally like, he was loving it, which is the funny part. He just like loves deleting because it's so critical.
Cackling. He was walking down the line cackling. Let me give you another one that's related, Pop.
I got a bunch on Tesla, so we should.
This is still Tesla.
Before we
this
go
is still
SpaceX.
Model 3. I went a little bit out of order.
Okay.
I thought this was really cool. So he's sitting in a meeting or something, and this is before they come out with the Model 3, and they know they're not going to be able to produce enough of these things per week to keep Tesla default alive. And he's playing with this little toy car that's on his desk. And he's like, starts inspecting it a little bit more. He's like, toy car. Wait, what's this? What's this seam in the bottom of the toy car? Okay. So they pressed this car in a factory. They stamped it in a factory. He's like, why don't we stamp real cars?
Right.
It's one
It
move.
works
You
with
just
the little car. Do it with the
Yeah.
bigger one. Same process.
And so
keep in mind, they're basically, they have like 100 different parts for the chassis of this car, and now they have to like weld and bolt and like mend everything together. I don't know how actual engineering works, but it basically like takes an absurd amount of time and manpower.
So I think that part of the algorithm is questioning the requirements. He's like, why does a car have to be assembled this way on a assembly line? Let's just make the gigapress. And the gigapress does what we do with toy car casting, full scale on a Tesla Model 3.
I mean, the thing is though, like, it's crazy. Like, you need him to question, because even though he's not even an engineer by trade, like he studied physics, not engineering, and business, just because whatever, he didn't want people like telling him what to do. But he comes in, and because he knows enough, he then goes to the people that would make this what do you call it, like a casting machine, which doesn't exist. It'd have to be the world's largest casting machine because he's doing a toy car and a real car. And like the first one says no, the second one says no, the third, the fourth, the fifth says no, but the sixth person was like, I guess we can fucking try it. And so they literally make the biggest one ever to exist. And it takes like the time to actually make the body, like the mold of the car, from, I don't know, like hours and hours. I don't even know, probably days, into literally 60 seconds. It's like, oh, we just pour the molten aluminum in, and then out comes the frame.
I'll tell you though,
There
that aluminum, that molten aluminum, if you listen to the last podcast, which just came out today, horribly fragile. Okay. I have a Tesla Model Y, smeared it on a post, on a parking lot post, crumpled the entire door. So
yeah, but it's one piece, dude.
60 seconds. My bad.
Oh,
it takes
if
60
it's
seconds.
One piece, you got to replace the whole thing.
Yeah.
Another
Let's see.
Another Tesla, dude.
Yeah. Give me a Tesla.
I got more. I got plenty, dude. Okay, so Tesla has this. When you say you take this aluminum cast, or like you have the body of the car, and now you want your sick Tesla to look white. Okay, it doesn't look white if it's aluminum, so you gotta like dip it in paint. So when you dip it in, you get paint all over it, and you pull it out, and it's gotta like drain all the paint out. But the problem is, if you just have like the shell as is, the paint won't drain. So you gotta drill little holes in it. When you drill these holes, you don't want those holes because like, well, I'll get to the point in a second, but like you need to patch them because like fucking water can get in or it'll just screw things up. And so Elon's like, dude, I'm going down the line and I see all these people just patching holes and it's taking forever. So I go up to him, I'm like, hey, why are there holes in this thing and why are we patching them? Like, well, the paint to dry, but like we got to patch them because say there's a flood, then the water can get up and seep through the floorboards. He's like, what are you talking about, dude? We're in California. When was the last time there was a flood? He's like, this happens maybe once every 10 years. And if it does happen, your feet are a little wet. Your feet are a little wet. The mats are a little wet. Granted, if it's New York like today, your whole ankle, your cank might be under. But like, that's not a big problem. So he's basically like, fuck the whole patching. We're just going to like go as is. So there are literally holes in the frame of this thing. But it doesn't matter because he's basically like, it's kind of interesting too because he's in this life or death industry, but he's taking the most risk. Like people will be like scared to do this in software. It's like nothing really bad can happen. But he doesn't even give a fuck whether it's like cars on the road or like spaceships going to the moon or Mars. It's like, I don't know. Like shit can blow up and he's still willing to take that risk, which is my favorite thing. Don't fall asleep, dude.
I was going to try and piggyback.
Tesla, dude?
No. Let me piggyback on that because I think this is important. I think most companies, most people don't do this. I have a prop and an example for this interactive thread.
Oh, nice.
His big thing in all of his companies, and then we can dial it back in on Tesla, is the product designers must sit next to the engineers for this exact problem you're talking about. Because he's like way too often, like the designers of something will be sitting in Seattle and the thing's manufactured in Tijuana.
Nice.
And that was quick. And so the designers don't interface directly with the engineers, so they don't know when things they do are stupid. I'll give you an example. I have these cups in my building. Okay?
Oh, nice.
And it pisses me off every time because I don't know what it is about the cup or the lid, but the thing leaks. You put the lid on, maybe it's not tight. When I go to drink out of it, it just dribbles all out of the cup.
Oh.
And so I'm like, two things. The designers of this product have never drank from it, apparently. Second, the people that are supplying it in our building have never drank from it, apparently. Right? So it's like, it's almost like a skin in the game thing. You need to have the people who are responsible for designing the thing or making the requirement, they have to bear the cost if it sucks.
Right.
Otherwise,
Well, it's
I do.
like imagine if Elon were driving like a BMW.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that'd be the dumbest thing ever. Versus, for example, full self-driving. He's like testing how well it works by how often he has to come in and intervene in full self-driving, and then he just goes back. He's like, guys, I couldn't do it because the lane markers are a little bit faded here. Like, fucking fix this thing. Just like immediate feedback, and that's why he's so against outsourcing too. At least in the early stages. Like now he's starting to outsource to like a Tijuana type place in
Oh,
Mexico. But
Tijuana.
he's like, in the early stages, you want those super fast feedback loops. Like you got to be able to like walk down the line. Always like designers can literally see the engineering, and like managers, they have to spend 20% of their time actually doing the thing. So there's just super fast feedback loops, and then you can take that model, and that's when you outsource. But you don't like outsource from the start, which a lot of people are doing, or a lot of companies are doing now.
Sick. Great work. Great work
Okay,
there.
another one, dude. Another one because we're still on Tesla, and Tesla's fucking chock full. So
I have one.
Tesla.
I have one.
Oh, you got one.
I have
You
one.
go. You go.
Yeah.
I got a.
No, I have a Tesla.
Oh. I know you're flexing on them, dude. That's sick. That's sick. All right, you know why you have it?
Why?
Because they're
The
fucking
Dirtians.
beasts at producing them.
Yeah.
No, well, yeah, that too. Thanks, Dirtians. They don't even know what that means.
They do if they listen to the episode that came out
guess you do.
today, September 28th from June 29th. The OGs will know.
Dirt.com.
The OGs.
Okay, so Elon, he's at like half of his quota of like 5,000 a week, and everyone in the world is shorting him. So he's like, all right, fuck, how do we make more than 2,500 a week or 2,000 a week? We got to get to 5. It's like, well, we're pretty much maxed out at capacity on our current assembly line. It's like, we can't build another fucking giant factory right now. So like, what do we do? And he's just thinking. He's a big like World War II nut. He's like, oh, World War II, they need to produce an insane amount of these airplanes, bombers, to go over and just bomb Europe. He's like, how did they do it? Well, they would set up tents in the parking lots and just create their own assembly lines outside the factories, and then basically just double their factory size overnight. And like the government allowed this just because they had to produce so much so fast. So now he finds out in California, where their main factory is, he's like, oh, there's this law that like allows repair shops to like open up a temporary tent to like fix things. He's like, they didn't specify the size. Oh, specify the size. Specify the size, dude. My bad.
You want to try it again? Try it again because
they didn't specify the size, dude.
Oh, that was closer, but specifies. One more time.
I got that one. I think I got that one, dude. We'll
I heard specifies. That's fine.
They didn't specify.
Yes, I did.
They didn't say the size, dude. So he's like, let's just build this big thing, and if we have to pay a fine, we have to pay a fine. So he builds this giant outdoor assembly line against the rules, really. But he just doesn't care about the rules. Like, that's my favorite thing is he's like, the only laws are the laws of physics. Everything else is just a recommendation. So he's like, if I can do it, I'm going to do it. So he makes this thing. But one of the problems he runs into is basically like you're outside and he doesn't have an actual assembly line. Like inside the factory, you have an assembly line where like the car just keeps moving down it. Like, you know, the Henry Ford thing, it goes down and then you just add parts to it. It's like, we don't have that. And we don't have machines that can push the cars down. Like we have some machines that'll like give them a little push. They're meant for parts, but like it's not enough. So what I love is he's just like, well, how do we get these things down? Like, let's just make a little slope.
Oh, gravity.
A little slope. He just uses gravity, dude. He's like, why do we have to have this conveyor belt? Let's just like put a little incline, just enough so it keeps going down, and then just keep producing parts. And he's just like, it costs practically nothing. They put it up in 2 weeks, and it's even better than their factory. It's just fully optimized. And I nerd out at that stuff.
Dude, that was sick. There's something about there being so many threads that I just can't even piggyback.
Oh,
because I've got more threads. Do you have more Tesla?
Not on Tesla? I like.
Let me see. I got a lot of surges. Oh, you got 2 more on Tesla? Oh, let me give you a quick one so that we can popcorn read here. It's not on Tesla, but it's on Cybertruck, another car. Oh, that is Tesla.
Oh,
That's Tesla. Okay, sick. This is a quick one. It was just another piece of confirmation bias that, like, really nobody's doing anything original or
mm,
profound. Um, in the sense that Isaacson talks about it in this book, but the inspiration for Cybertruck came from this James Bond car, the Lotus Esprit or Esprit. And you look at that thing, maybe we'll put it here. Looks exactly like the Cybertruck. Looks exactly
mm.
like it. Steve Jobs, most of their design came from what was that company that starts with a B? I want to say Bosch, but it's not Bosch. Braun. I think it was Braun.
Braun. Yeah.
Braun. If you like go and look at Braun stuff from the 70s, from the 80s, it's like total Johnny Ive Apple. And so
Mm.
it's like the things we think about in the modern day as the best design often are just remixes of first principles. I see this all the time. Like Casey Neistat is not Casey Neistat. He's really Van Neistat and Tom Sachs and like all these other guys that inspired him. And they were inspired like by, I don't know, Stanley Kubrick.
Watch out, dude.
Letters are hard. And so I don't know. I just over and over again, I'm like, people are not as original as they seem. It's the Steve Jobs, like these people are no more smarter or capable
Oh,
than you.
no more smarter.
No more smarter.
Uh, yeah, and one thing I like there too is when I didn't realize that he like basically imitated that, but pretty much compared to every other truck, it just looked completely original and like freakily ugly to most people. But Elon's just like, no, that thing is cool as shit. We're going with that. And then all the engineers are like, Elon, can we do like a focus group to see if like maybe people like it other than you? It's like, no, dude, I don't do focus groups.
Steve Jobs,
Elon's
neither.
rules. And one thing cool, I guess we can kind of transition and maybe we'll come back to the Tesla threads I still got. But he takes this idea for what is it? The Cybertruck? What do they call the thing?
Cybertruck.
Cybertruck. Cybertruck, like what is it made out of? It's made out of stainless steel. And that's why it looks so angular, because it's like I guess like harder to form it and curve it, but it's just stronger and better. He takes that from SpaceX, because at SpaceX they were running into this problem. Okay, they have their, I think it was their Falcon rocket, Falcon 9, which just means like 9 rocket engines on it, I think. That is made out of carbon fiber, and they were running into problems where carbon fiber, one, it's like super expensive, but it's wrinkling, so it's not like forming right for the, I guess like the fuselage or whatever, and it's really slow to actually make. So Elon's like, oh, how do we make this thing better? Carbon fiber was just like, it's not it. But he thinks back, because he goes historically with a lot of his stuff. He's like, well, NASA in their early space program, they were making some of their rockets out of stainless steel. But the whole engineers are like, no, dude, Elon, we can't do stainless steel. It's super heavy. Like that thing's not going to take off. It's going to be like much more expensive. It's just not going to work like the carbon fiber. It's like, no. Just like if they used it, it has to work somehow. So like just run the numbers, see what happens. So they run the numbers, and when they crunch them, they're like, okay, yes, stainless steel is objectively heavier than carbon fiber, but that's not factoring in what happens when you actually use the thing. Like when you use the rocket, you send it off to space. One, space is just colder. Plus you have like this liquid oxygen, which is the fuel, and like basically you super cool everything, so it's super dense. Now like the actual spaceship is super cold, which makes stainless steel 50% stronger. So now it's much stronger when it's actually being used in flight. So they don't have to use as much of it. And then also stainless steel has a higher melting point versus carbon fiber. So you don't need as many of these heavy heat shields. So on net, stainless steel is actually lighter than using carbon fiber, just because you have to think of the actual application of it. I'm just like, dude, I love that shit. Just jazzing me up.
And that's what, well, that's what's so cool. This is what I just love about biographies. Like, we watch the Starship launch and you see the thing, it's like shiny, it's stainless steel, but you just like don't know why. And then to be able to read about it and be like, oh, like those are the decisions that went into this thing. Like that, it's not stainless steel just to look nice. Like, it's very cool.
Okay, let me give you an overarching point, because now I think we're on to SpaceX. Um, SpaceX is different than Tesla, because Tesla's like there are car companies, and it's your market is the consumer. It's just like Henry's going to buy a Tesla, versus in SpaceX, your customer is the American government. It's like, okay, government. We talked about this a year ago when I was shooting Shirtless podcast, but government, this is from Palmer Luckey, because he has Anduril, which is like the coolest space company, or defense company.
Dude,
my bad, dude.
that
Didn't mean to
will
bring that up.
never stop being crazy. Like, there's a short out there, a shitty short.
Dude, I was questioning requirements, dude.
Yeah.
Why is this
something
shirt
like that.
required?
Something like that.
There are shorts out there. What is the point? Basically, in that podcast, I was talking about how the current way defense works is defense contracts. So like the US government is like, hey, we want a rocket to go to space. They don't pay you like, hey, we're going to pay $1 billion if you get our men to the International Space Station. They're like, no, just
Or
take
women.
the contract.
Or women. Men or women. Sorry to throw a wrench in that next sentence, but
Psychological safety, dude.
psychological
men or women,
warfare.
dude. All of man and womankind to space. Basically, we're just gonna pay you, but we're gonna pay you in this cost plus model. What the hell is cost plus? Is like you do whatever it costs, and we'll just pay you like a fixed profit. Say it's like 10%. We're gonna pay you 10% profit on whatever your costs are. And why they did this was in World War II. They were basically taking like car manufacturers and like, hey, can you make like bombers for us? And we don't know how much it's going to cost to like retool all your stuff. So just do it super fast, and we'll just like pay you after the fact to like give you some profit on top. But that whole legacy just persisted. So now you have incentives completely fucked when you're not at war, because say like I don't know, Boeing, who sends things to the sky, Lockheed Martin. I don't know actually.
Boeing.
Okay, say Boeing has something they're sending up. Their incentive now is like, let's not question any of the requirements that the government puts on. Like, for example, one of them was like a crane to lift the rocket. Elon had to rent for like $3 million because the government said, oh, if you're lifting the rocket, you got to be like extra careful and like make sure there are multiple cranes and like they're coming at different angles. It's like $3 million. And no one at the defense companies is going to question this. At Boeing is going to question this because, hey, we just make more profit because it's 10% of whatever they cost. So there's no incentive to challenge it.
And there's no incentive
Elon
to,
comes
to
in.
work faster either, because
Yeah,
there's often no deadline. It's just cost, whatever the
It's-
cost of the thing is, plus profit.
it's literally the opposite. It's like the longer this goes on, the longer we'll get paid.
Right.
So it's better to run over budget and longer, and that's why you get the F-35, that like new fucking jet fighter that costs how much was it? Billions of dollars. $2 billion. $2 trillion.
We don't get the facts right.
1.7 trillion. I had to go back in the mental archives. $1.7 trillion. Every taxpayer paid $10,000 for this freaking thing. My bad, dude. Point is, that's like the whole philosophy. Basically, everything in space is screwed up because of cost plus. Elon's like, that's fucked. Just tell us, like, how much do you want to pay to get a man or a woman to space? And then, hey, we're going to basically create the rocket to get them there. And like anything we do below that, like a normal company, if we do it for $500 million and you pay us $1 billion, we keep the 500 million. That's our profit. So now there's every incentive to do it more cheaply and more effectively. So that's where he comes in, and he just starts seeing left and right all these just screwed up incentives, causing things to be like 10, 20, 30,
Let me give you a
100 times
couple.
more expensive than they should be.
Let me give you a couple. There was a valve they needed for something, for fuel or something. All the quotes they were getting were $250,000. Musk's just like, that's freaking insane. Because he has this thing, right? The idiot index, which is basically how much more costly is a finished product, this valve, $250,000 valve, versus the raw materials required to actually make that product. Another one, at the same time, they needed an actuator.
Well, the cool thing about this index is you build it, you look at all the parts you need for your spaceship, and you just have ratios for everything. It's like, oh, this thing costs 100,000, but if we just did the metals, it'd be 1,000. It's like, oh, that's the ratio of 100. Now you can rank order everything, and you just go top to bottom. Like, let's figure out how to redo this, redo that, redo that. So you start with the valve or whatever, and then you go to whatever your next thing is.
And none of these NASA's, these Boeings, these Lockheeds, they're not questioning these prices because their incentive isn't to, right? They just get they just get paid to use
it,
right. They want to use
up.
the most expensive parts because then they get more profit. Another one was $120,000 actuator where Elon comes in and he's like, boys,
well,
this is literally a garage door opener. Like what?
An actuator just like moves something.
Yeah, it's just like pss, 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 pss.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's a garage door opener, this thing. So like, why is it $120,000 if the raw materials are so much cheaper? So that's my two examples. Nice. That was a list of two to tag on to what
I got two more.
Okay.
That could adds up to 4. That's a huge list.
Okay. Pretty good.
Another one. Okay. They're talking about latches. Like latches on, say, the International Space Station. Like going up to make an actual latch to like lock something. It's $1,500 according to NASA. It's like $1,500 for a freaking latch. Like, hey, dude. The index all fucked up. It's like a 20x index or whatever the metal would cost, probably 100x. Can you go figure out how to make a locking mechanism? So they send the engineer off, and he's like trying to figure it out. And he goes into this bathroom stall. You know, like bathroom stalls, there's like a locking mechanism. It's like, oh, let me just take this locking mechanism and put it on the International Space Station. We'll like put this on the rocket, and like here you can use it everywhere. And now this thing is actually $30, not $1,500. Or it's like, okay, we have this take Starship or one of their Falcon rockets. I think it was a Falcon. You have a little payload at the top, but you want to like make sure that basically like there's air conditioning in there. Like you want to make sure that shit isn't too hot or whatever in the payload. So basically he asked like, hey, how much is it to make this? And they're like, it's $3 million if you want to cool the air in the payload area. It's like $3 million. You guys hear this? $3 million. Hey, Tracy, how much does AC in your house cost? It's like $6,000 for the unit. It's like, all right, let's get a handful of those. And they get a bunch of like house AC and then just like redo the valve so it kind of works in space. And boom, $3 million goes to like tens of thousands. It's like, dude, everything's cheeks.
Cheeks, dude. Let me give you another one. List of 5.
Oh, you got a 5?
This is now a list of 5. This kind of gets back to the algorithm a little bit.
Oh, I got one more too. It could be 6.
Oh, could be 6. They're trying to figure out how to land the Starship, this huge rocket, previously formerly known as the Big Fucking Rocket. And some of the engineers are like, well, why don't we put landing legs on it? And Elon...
well, like that's what you'd normally do, right?
That's what you would normally do, right? So let's question the requirement and then delete. Elon's response
is landing legs bad?
Well, they're heavy.
No good.
They're heavy. They're expensive.
Heavy. Okay.
Any weight you're adding makes it that much harder to get to Mars and back. Elon's response is the best part is no part.
The best part.
That's it. The best part is no part.
Which is literally he's now saying like, let's figure out how to take this rocket from space and just drop it down going super, super fast. And somehow it's going to stop and land and not blow up or tip over.
Well, they're going to catch it with the landing tower. The landing tower is going to catch it with 2 chopstick arms, basically.
Oh, so let's reuse the thing that we had at the start to keep it not tipping over. And then it's going to somehow fucking Karate Kid catch this thing.
You had a 6th?
Oh. I had a 6th, dude. This gets into like, okay, everything is like getting humanity to Mars. And I think normally the problem that we have with sort of the VC world is people take a lot of money and they don't worry about profitability. Easy, dude. The stutter really kills me. They don't worry about profitability. Elon, though, he's like, hey, if we're going to hit this long-term mission, we got to make money. So he's making some money off contracts with NASA to like bring men and women to space. He's like, it's got to be a better business model. Like, well, what if we created our own internet? We send up these little satellites to beam back internet down to Earth and just charge people money for that. And let's call it Starlink. And so now it's like why he can you can get in like a private jet, his private jet, he could like go in the all-in conference and buzz in and like talk to people because you're just beaming down stuff rather than I don't know how it normally works with talking other satellites, but
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
low Earth orbit and there are just a bunch of them, so it's just a much better signal in remote areas,
Well,
especially.
internet traditionally the requirement was it passes through fiber optic cables. Those fiber optic cables are physical things that have to be laid like under all the oceans. So there's just a lot of places on Earth. And then they have to get to a tower they have to get to
Hmm.
you. Then the fiber optic goes up a tower and then the transmitter shoots it out. And then you have to have a satellite that receives it on Earth. And like most places on Earth just don't have fiber optic cable laid.
Mm.
So he's like, let's just put
Right.
the internet in space where whenever it flies over a certain place, we can give that person Wi-Fi. Facebook,
And now,
Google, they've all been trying to do it with
right.
balloons and
But it's
shit.
like talk about defensibility where you have the main rocket company. Like the US literally can't send people to space. Like that's a big problem was, hey, we got to the moon in 69, but since then we haven't done shit. We've just gone on orbit and like for 10 years we didn't have like shuttles. Like after the shuttle stopped, it's like no one was sending stuff to space. So now he's got the only way to get up there or like reliable way and can just make this monopoly. But my point is, okay, one, it's cool he's making like a profitable business plan to fund his Mars journey. Like that's the only reason he's really doing Starlink. But one of the bottlenecks in Starlink, it's like you have all these little satellites that you're trying to release in space. When you send them up with the rocket, you want to like release them in an organized fashion, right? So they just like file out of the rocket and basically you like tie them up and make sure they just like go in a good order. And Elon's like, hey, this whole thing we're like tying them up and like making sure they go out orderly. Why are we doing that? Like, what? I mean, fucking, they're in space. Like, we just spent all this money to get them up there. Like, what if they like bang into each other and like they come out all dislodged and like burn up in the atmosphere? It's like, no, they're up there. It's zero gravity, so they're not going fast. They're going the same speed as everything else. The shuttle's pulling away because it's got a little boost in it, so it's naturally just gonna like pull them out. And they're not. They're literally not going fast enough to damage each other.
Oh.
So it's like, let's just try it. If it fails, it fails. We'll go back. And they try it, and it's like
Even
literally
cooler
no
is like,
problems.
if it fails, blame me. Like, I signed off on this. And he does that a lot, which is like, I understand like you're scared about this thing. I have no fears and don't care about risk, and it's my company. So like I sign off on that.
Right. There
And
was
then he has
this
to admit a lot of times when he makes mistakes.
So 37 Signals is one of our business mentors, and they did a piece on this, Jason Fried in particular. He was talking about risk, and everyone's like, hey, Elon's this like reckless, super risky guy. It's like, no, you guys just have a different perspective on risk. Like everyone in the normal corporate world, their view of risk is like, let's make sure like there's no error. So like double checking, triple checking everything. Let's have like a board to approve everything we're doing. And like, let's go slow and like make sure everything works. Elon's like, okay, maybe that's true in like the micro case, if you're looking through like a little monocle. But Elon has a giant telescope. And so his perspective is like, hey, the riskiest thing to do if we're trying to like save humanity and keep that spark alive, we got to take all the risks we can right now to accelerate this process. Like, we don't have time. Like, say AI comes in the next 10 years or like a nuclear war happens. Like, we don't have time to fuck around. So we just got to like start testing things. One of the big things was like rockets to space. There was this super expensive like process for testing rockets to make sure like they actually work before you send them to space. And Elon's like, we don't have time for that. It costs way too much. Like, let's just fucking send it to space. If it blows up, it blows up. But if it doesn't, now we know they work as is. And so like this whole process of like it's all about speed, and that's where his urgency comes from because his timeline is just so different. Anything else for SpaceX? Oh, I got one more
Whoa.
for SpaceX. Is this 7?
Oh. That's 7. I don't even remember what the list was about.
Oh, he's falling asleep. We're at 48 minutes. It's fine. Okay, so another one is they're making the dome on the top of one of their rockets. dude, everything's a rocket. They're making the dome on the top, but they're taking a while. And Elon's like, hey guys, why are we taking so long for this dome? Like, well, we can't, like, we don't have the tool to like fit it to make sure it's the right size for the rocket. He's like, all right, guys, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna go down, go to the rocket, cut off a sliver of the bottom. That now is your sizing. That's your fitting tool. Fit the dome to fit the tool. He's like, oh, sorry, dude. I tweaked, but like, just fucking get the sliver off the bottom and like figure it out. And I think he had a nice phrase, was like, a dome by dawn or something like that. And it's like, dude, by dawn we're finishing this dome. And he's just out there in the trenches with him, and they're gonna figure it out. Damn.
I'm speechless.
Okay.
I'm speechless because that was a list of 7. It was so many I couldn't keep track of the list. We got to be careful with our lists.
Yeah. Okay. Let me switch over. This is just like example after example. That's all I like. Okay. Do you want to go Boring Company or back to Tesla?
Are we finished
Tesla's
with
quick.
Tesla if we go back to Tesla?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go back to Tesla.
Okay. Wrapping up Tesla. Almost.
Oh
no.
no.
It's kind of that. No, there's a transition point, so I can like get out of it. Okay. Just a small thing, like Elon's looking. This is just, I liked his like doesn't give a fuck about regulations. He was in the car and he's looking at his Tesla, like the Model 3, and he sees in the visor, like if you're in the passenger seat and you bring down the visor or whatever, you see a little warning. It's like, hey, the airbag, if you got kids there, just like watch out because you'll blow up your kid. It's like, dude, this thing's so ugly. Why do we have this? I'm like, well, it's regulation. Like, if the kid blows up, he's like, no, let's just put a little thing in the computer where it's like gives you a warning if the kid's there, and let's just strip this ugly little sticker. I go, oh, I guess we can do that. I'm like, dude, I love, like, most people would be like, no, it's required by the government. He's like, no, fuck it, we'll just like do it a better way.
There are so many of those too. When he was designing the Tesla, I didn't know how involved he was in designing the first Tesla Roadster. Something about the headlights. Oh, he had such a great quote about the headlights having to be beautiful. I think it was like they're the eyes to the thing or something. I don't know.
Oh, you want to transition into eyes?
Okay. Oh.
So, man, dude, you're falling asleep. Okay.
Late stage
so there's
pod.
This big debate. We got an hour. We're at 50. So there's a big debate in full self-driving. That's just the pinnacle of our world would be entirely different if we can crack this code. The big debate is like, how do we crack it? Actually, multiple versions of how to crack this. But like the first thing is like, how do we like interpret the signal of the world? What do we want to do? Now, pretty much every company, their default is let's use LiDAR, which is basically like little laser beams, just sending out laser beams and seeing how to scan the environment. Just having a bunch of these. And Elon's like, okay, well, one LiDAR, it's like, this just doesn't feel natural. Like, why would we use LiDAR? Like, we use our eyes to see the world. So why would we even do this new technology? It's like super expensive. So what's the point of like doing this in the first place? So he's like, let's just take a bunch of cameras and let's go completely all in on vision. And the engineer's like, no, we can't do that. We need to like maybe hedge a little bit and like let's have maybe vision and LiDAR together. And so they do that. Elon's like, all right, fuck it, let's just do it for a little bit. But after a while, he's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna like stand my ground. It should just be vision because we just use our eyes. If we can do that, then it's fine. Now he realizes when he pulls out the LiDAR, and so it's vision only, the engineers give him so much flack for it. But like months later, all the engineers are like, holy shit, I can't believe we used LiDAR. Like vision is so much better than what we're doing. Now they can't even think about going back. But he's just like, hey, no, we take that elimination process. It's like, delete the thing. If we need to add it back, we always can.
We talked about that on a couple pods ago. It's just like, it's brilliant first principles. It's like, how do humans drive cars? Computers should be able to do the same. We drive with our eyes.
He's
right?
falling asleep.
and the car has like 8 cameras, 6 or 8 cameras, which is more than a human. I think he was wrong though, and they started to bring LiDAR back because I think there's a bunch of fringe cases where LiDAR was actually better, they found. And so it uh, maybe, I don't know if you remember explicitly, but it was one of those bring back 10% that they were okay with doing. He was like, make vision as good as physically possible. But I think in the new cars, they're bringing LiDAR back for some reason. Rain, maybe, or
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, it's like find the line, figure out if we
right.
need it. Basically, figured out like, oh, we were leaning way too heavily on lidar at first. Like our vision technology was shit because we had this extra crutch. So he removes this crutch, makes vision a lot better, and then like if he adds back lidar later, now it's just a supercharged everything. One more thing too, like originally with full self driving, they thought they could just like code everything into the car. It's like, hey, if you see two lanes and it's a solid line, like don't cross over. So they just had like thousands, millions of lines of code. But then he realizes, hey, with neural nets or like the way our brain actually functions, like let's just look at real world scenarios. So like take like the best drivers of Tesla because they have all this data. You can just look at your 5-star Uber drivers, just see how they react in the real world and just imitate them. It's basically like how kids learn. They just learn by imitation. That's now what the Tesla cars are doing. And they're basically just going to like cancel out all that code that they just spent all those years writing. It's like, oh no, this one's much better. So they're pivoting completely to this neural net system.
And that's the beauty of computers with a lot of data is they're, because they can see and process so much more data than a human can, they end up making better decisions in the long run. Hey, dude, that's my addition. That's my addition to the thread.
I got a quick one. We're getting. Oh, I got to transition out, but I got another one that I like too. Okay, so in Tesla
and out.
So, this is just a quick one that like speaks to Elon as a person. Tesla's getting shorted left and right because they're like, he's way too ambitious. He's never going to hit these benchmarks that he's saying. And he's just a fucking maniac. So he does end up hitting them. But at a certain point, Bill Gates comes to him. And because now Elon's the richest man in the world. He's like, Bill's like, hey, Elon, can we like set up a meeting to talk about maybe some fundraising stuff? And Elon's like, sure. When are you free? And Bill's like, well, no, let's just send it to our like schedulers and they can like put it in the calendar. He's like, no, I don't have one. Just fucking, when are you free? And now Bill's like, oh my God, Elon's just like manually scheduling his meetings. One, that's just sick. But then he gets to the meeting and Gates is basically like, there's this elephant in the room because Gates has been shorting him. And Elon's like, hey, dude, I don't really believe in charity. I think the best charity is just creating an awesome business like Tesla or SpaceX. So what you should do is just give me all your money, Bill. Like just fun projects like this. It's like, fucking no, we're doing like blood sit for kids and stuff. And then Elon's like kind of fed up. He's trying to get out and he's like, well, Bill, why did you short Tesla? He's like, well, I thought you couldn't hit these benchmarks. It's like, okay, well, do you still have the short? It's like, well, yeah. He's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Why would you have that short against me? And Bill's like, well, I thought you wouldn't hit it and we'd make money. And dude, Elon's brain, he just can't comprehend why you would shorting a company is basically like putting money that it will fail. You're like trying to get it to fail. You're betting that it will. It's like, I'm doing the best thing for humanity. Why would you, claiming to be this philanthropist, now come and try and kill the best thing for humanity? And so he literally like just can't fathom the idea of Bill trying to like be greedy and make money over here because it's just the most ironic, hypocritical thing ever. So I just like that.
Which gets
of, like,
it gets back to your spoil, which is humanity over human.
Don't try and wrap me up.
Can I say his relationship with X, his child, X Ash 12 or whatever, so bizarre to me. He's just got this little binky that follows him around everywhere. He's like, rocket,
it's a kid,
rocket. Dude. He just counts from 1 to 10. He only counts down from 10 to 1. It's just odd to me.
That's how kids work.
It's just him and X.
Yeah. No, he likes X a lot for some reason. Probably because his name's X and that's his favorite thing. Hey, one thing on Boring Company, then Twitter. I think we're almost good. Okay. Boring Company. I like Elon. He just looks at the world and he's like, take a city. Okay. what is the issue with cities? Well, cities are 3D. You have like people walking around and the buildings go straight up. So you're in 3 dimensions. You just pack all these people in tightly. But how do you get those people in and out of the city? It's on roads, which are 2D. Like that makes no sense. Maybe if you're like in LA, they don't have any subways, which was crazy to me. Like New York luckily has that, so it's like a little bit 3D. But he's like, what we got to do is figure out how to make transportation 3D, and that'll just make cities function so much better. And most people are like, hey, flying cars is the thing. That's Peter Thiel's thing. It's like we were promised flying cars and we got like 240 characters. But Elon's like, no, dude, you don't want flying cars, because flying cars, now you have shit buzzing all over your head. Like, one, is going to be loud, and two, you walking down the street, you just went from a chance of like basically 0% that anything's going to fall on you and kill you to now, who knows if a hubcap, easy, hubcap flies off, and now you got like a 1% chance of dying.
A fucking flying car hubcap right now, an hour
Come on, dude. You can't shut me down. I like this point. Okay, so now he's like, okay, let's make tunnels. Let's start the Boring Company. We all know that thing. But they have this big drill to drill the tunnels, and they're like building this shaft. They're like excavating this shaft to now bring the boring machine down and like create the tunnel. And Elon's like, oh, what are you guys doing? Like, oh, we're building the thing to get it down so it can start drilling the tunnels. He's like, look at my yard. See my yard? It's got holes in it. Those are gopher holes. How does a gopher make a tunnel? Like, well, it starts at the surface and it like tunnels down. He's like, yeah, do that. So now they like create this machine that just drills from the surface down in, and you have to create these like mine shafts to then bring the thing in. It's just like, hey, question everything, dude. You got anything for Twitter? Twitter's kind of sick because you just
No, I kind of hate Twitter.
85% of the company.
Yeah, I kind of hate Twitter.
Well, I just like the quick point was he's like, full self-driving is the hardest engineering challenge I've ever faced. That's why he always promises like it's done by the end of the year, for like 10 years straight. He's like, that entire team is a 10th of the size of the Twitter engineering team. And Twitter is just a giant group chat. Just like, what the hell are all your people doing? So he gets in and just fires 85% of the people. And I thought that story was sick, like how they went about it. He's definitely ruthless, and that's like the getting back to that point of like humanity over humans. He really doesn't care about just firing people. It's always like, hey, dude, if you're not on the mission, like, we accept your resignation. That's it.
You know what I find cool that I didn't know is just the amount of family he works with. His brothers, his nephews. He's trying to get a couple of his older sons. Cousins, yeah, because they were dumb. So he's so meritocratic, but he's just, I thought it was interesting that he's got all these brilliant family members. And we've talked about this, but it's like, find the people you want to do life with, and then, yeah, right? Find the people you want to do life with, and then
find the people you love and do life with them.
Find the people you love and do life with them. That's tough, dude. What was my point? My point was...
Don't guardie me, because I got 2 more mini points that I like before we
mini it up.
Okay. This is just a specific example, then I'll go more global. Specific example, one last thing was like with the rocket, okay, going back to SpaceX, with the rocket, they make it out of aluminum, and we're trying to figure out like, hey, how thick do we have to make this aluminum thing? Because you want to make it as skinny as possible, because that's a big cost of the rocket. And so instead of going to the company, he's like, hey, we got this steel. We got this steel rocket. Like, how thick do we have to make the walls? He doesn't go to the corporate people, because they'll just give him like, hey, here's how to do it safely. Probably need like 6 millimeters. He's like, let me go to the guy actually building it. Like probably like a Mexican dude just actually creating it. It's like, hey, Mexican dude, how wide do these walls have to be before you get nervous? Like, well, probably about like 4.8 millimeters. And Elon's like, all right, sick. Let's do 4. It's like, 4? Like, yeah, if it blows up, then we'll like bring it up to 4.8. It's just like, he's like, don't go to the suit people. Go to the people on the ground that are actually building it. Like Solar City had something similar where like they were saying they can't produce this many cells on a roof. And he's talking to the guy. He's like, when was the last time you were on the roof? Like, well, 20 years ago. It's like, well, why am I listening to you? Fired. Last thing, kind of global point. I really like how this is like a Peter Thiel-ism, but he has just one metric. It's like one metric. That's all we're focused on. So take Tesla and full self-driving. He's just like, how many miles per intervention? That's all they care about. It's like, can we go 10 miles without me having
My bad.
Oh. Dude, I can see when you're breaking down, your eyes glaze over.
Dirty cat.
So tough.
My bad.
Because we're an hour in, I'm talking about miles per intervention, huh?
Exactly. I tried
and
to
then
not let that out. My bad.
Cost per
The
pound
one
into
metric.
orbit. That's the other one I like too. Hey, you got any takeaways? What's your big takeaway, dude? Let me get you
No,
involved.
Pop. Take me away, Pop.
Oh, God.